What's up guys, it's Keeps here and welcome to episode 5 of the RB Leipzig series. As you know, from episode 4 we've went on quite a bit and you can see the table's not exactly where we want it to be, but we're within touching distance of the top 5, which is an important thing still. We've had quite a poor run of form, not winning too many, not losing too many at the same time though, so we can't be too disappointed overall. So when we look at the squad, as you can see, there is a slight tactical change that we'll go through in a second, but goals, you can see Poulsen and Werner, they're still ahead by quite a lot. In fact, they're almost about the only ones that have scored since we last saw these. We do have some adding a couple of goals in there. Adamo Lukman came in for a Champions League game and done brilliantly, and Samari scored another one, I'm pretty sure. So we're doing well overall, but again, we'd like to do better. So we'll just take you and look at the tactic now. We have changed it up to a 4-4-2 and we've reintroduced this man, Kevin Campbell. Originally, he looked like he was someone in the way out at 29 years old. You know, Leipzig, we want to build a young team, a team with a lot of potential and a lot of energy, and he didn't seem the right fit. However, we've brought him back in and he's done fairly well, as you can see. You know, 7.01 in 11 games, 2 substitute appearances. So we can't complain. Bringing him back in seems to have helped us a little bit. You know, his passing accuracy is pretty good. His tackle win percentage is pretty good. So overall, we can't complain with too much for bringing him back in and the performances that he's gave. Forsberg and Sabitzer obviously coming in from the 3-5-2 where they didn't really fit in. And Forsberg hasn't done great, but Sabitzer's been pretty decent for us. So as you can see, that's how the team's kind of sitting. Currently on a mid-season break just now, as you can see, we've brought it up to that point, so I've continued quite a bit, but the team's relatively the same. One thing I will say is we're going to look to bring him back from his loan spell. I feel like he maybe could do just a job for adding a little bit of quality and depth. You know, Patrick Schick, very good player, but he's just not been quite doing it for us. And Cunha, we haven't really rated him so far. He's had very little games, in all honesty, but you know, training wise and things like that, we've just not really had a good vibe from him so far. Upamecano and Konate have pretty much made those positions their own now. They've both been doing very good, and as you can see, their relationships building quite well. Same with striker, you know. We can't see that getting broken up at all with the way they're playing. You know, I think it's 26 goals, 27 goals between the two of them. That's not including assists, so they've been really good in terms of getting his goals, and especially since switching to the 4-4-2, they do a lot of work on their own, especially away from home. So scoring the goals, been very good indeed. So we've been happy with that. We still have used the 3-5-2 now and again, but as I say, this has just suited us a little bit more, taking a little bit of the edge off in the defence. We're having Campbell sitting a little bit deeper, and Sabitzer and Forsberg there in support, so they do come back and help the two fullbacks, who do get forward now and again. But we're happy with how this is playing. So I guess we'll go and look at the schedule. So from where we left you, I think it was around probably the Schalke game. In fact, I think it was about the Porto game was the last game, I'm pretty sure. We did play these in the last episode, so as you can see, it has been a rather mixed form. You know, that loss against Freiburg away from home kind of kicked us on to change the system, and we did go on a fairly decent unbeaten run there, going through November. December, not been as great, but we have came out with 7 points from 4 games, which, considering we played Dortmund away from home, Hoffenheim, they're all above us in the table at home, came with a strong team. We can't be too disheartened with the results. As to the Champions League, we have topped the group with 1 loss, sadly, to Porto. Draw to Zenit, and as you can see, we did some good wins, especially Celtic away from home. I just want to focus on that one just for a second. So I'll look at that just now. So as you can see, this was the first game in the Champions League we played with the 4-4-2, and Admiral Lukman Konate scored. There was an own goal from Moritz Bauer, but it was a very good performance overall, very solid performance, keeping the ball away from home is a very hard thing to do, especially going to Celtic Park. With the team that they've got, with the way they set up in Football Manager. So we're delighted with that result, and see them at Phil's. You know, it was a very professional performance, and coming with a 4-0 win away from home in the Champions League against anyone's a very good result. So hopefully this form that we've seen in November, we can continue into the rest of the season. We certainly do not have an easy run going into the rest of the season. You know, Real Madrid in the Champions League, and we've got Werder Bremen in the DFB Pokal, but you know, teams like Frankfurt, Gladbach, Bayern, all in a row. It's not going to be easy at all. So we're going to look to try and improve there. Going into the January transfer window, however, it's a slightly different story. As you can see, the balance is not good looking at all. We are thinking we're going to have to sell someone, and the main contender is actually Emil Forsberg, just because his lack of good performances since we brought him into the team. He would generate about 30 to 40 million from looking at it, so he would be the overall candidate to just go and generate some funds, get the transfer budget up, sort out the wage budget, and hopefully get back on our feet in terms of financially, because as the first half of the season's shown, we do need some improvements. I'd say mainly in the middle of the park, you know, along the four. Sabitzer and Forsberg have been okay. As I say, Sabitzer are certainly better than Forsberg, so I'd be looking for improvements there. And maybe just a deep line playmaker and defend who's fully capable of performing in that position. Campo's been good, but as I say, we want to bring it in a new lease of life to the team. Have them all young, like they are most of the places, and see how we get on with that. When we look at the medical centre, we have had some injuries. You know, Amadou Haidara, he is away, damaged cruciate ligament, 4 to 6 months. Very disappointing to lose him for that amount of time. He's been a big player for us so far, and to lose him in that way has been a big miss. But Samari, Nkunku, people like that, Szoboszlai's come in for a few games. They've done a very good job of making sure that he's not felt too lost in terms of being out of the team. One player who's featured a couple of times for us since the last video has been Hannes Wolf. You know, we're switching to the 4-4-2s a lot more. He has fitted in, playing at cam and centre mid. Mostly when we have switched it up in games, when we've been kind of losing it in the middle to the 4-1-2-1-2. You know, dropping Forsberg to the bench and bringing on Hannes Wolf has been a popular substitution, and he started a couple of games as well. So as you can see, we've been using the squad a lot more, trying to, you know, sort out this bad run of form, and we did for a little while get a lot better results, but it's just started to slip again for the winter break. But you know, ending a 2-1 win at home to Augsburg was a good way after losing to 2-0. Certainly looking for a response in that game, and we definitely got that result. So looking at competitions, as we've said, you know, we're sitting in 7th in the league. 8 wins from 17 with 3 draws and 6 losses. It's not great. There's no way around it. It's not a great run of the season so far. But as long as we're up in this top 4 or top 5 at least, come the end of the season, we won't be too bothered. The title hopes are a little bit out of reach now, you know, being 11 points off Dortmund, but everything can change. We could come back after the winter break, you know. I'm going to have training set up to get them fully familiar with the new tactics and try and get them as best possible to come back from the winter break. Champions League, you know, we're very impressed with how we've gone. The board are impressed too. Timo Werner, Adamo Lookman, you know, players that have really stood out so far in the Champions League, and he's only played a couple of games, so that's good to see him there, and with a couple of good assists. So we're doing good in that. And in the cup, it's only in the 3rd round, so we are looking to kind of push on and try and get that as our silverware this season. We're hoping for one piece of silverware across the 3 competitions, certainly, and DFB Pokal is probably the most likely for that at this point, but as I say, anything can change when we come back from the winter break. So we'll just look at the scouting, and we'll look at players who we want to bring in. So as you can see, we are looking to bring in Alex Garcia on a free transfer. He's a pretty solid centre mid, and he can play deep line playmaker and support or defend very well. But what we're looking at just now is what we're looking to bring in January. So we've got the under 21 Rising Stars shortlist here from this team workshop. but we're not actually using it as such. We're scrolling through and we got an idea to look back at Salzburg just for a couple of maybe cheaper signings, and one of which is Enerkim Wepu, highly rated right midfielder, can go up and down the line, can come inside, he can come and give us options at the right. You know, Sabitzer pretty much our only option on the right just now, so any depth we can get in that area would be welcomed. And the other player we'd be looking at, given that we're taking advantage of the fact that, you know, there hasn't been an update, is Erling Haaland. Now, we will scout him, but we know his quality already. Look to bring him in on the cheap if we can, get rid of, you know, Emil Forsberg, and just look at the stats for being 19. It'll be great for us coming in, and just taking a little bit of advantage that the transfer update hasn't come out yet, so hopefully we can bring him in, add a lot of quality to the strike force, and that would mean that we can keep Kevin Augustin on loan so he can improve there. So, as Neo had said, that we had some highlights to show, but there hasn't been any great highlights in the games. I will say there've been counter-attacking goals, or you know, tap-ins or corners. There hasn't been any great highlights that I could think of. I'll go and show the guys on YouTube, because I just don't see that it'd be worth the time for you to sit and watch, you know, goals that we all see in Football Manager. There's no standouts, so that's why there's none. But that's just been a quick catch up, guys. One thing I will just point out before we go is if we look at the under 19 squad, we have had a lot of good performers, one being Home, Norwegian striker. You know, he's been very good in a lot of good form. As you can see, 27 games altogether, 22 goals, 9 assists. Under 21 championships, we're not too bothered about at this point, you know. But it's that potential ability, you know, potential to go to 4 stars, and he's at 2 just now. So, you know, he might be someone that comes in just to get a couple of games, give us some time, along with we've got Mads Bidstrup, who's also been performing pretty well, you know, 7.7 rating over the 24 games. So that's what we'll be looking at. But just a little quick overview here, as you can see in the main screen, you know, stats. Timo Werner, 16 goals, Yusuf Poulsen, 6 assists, most assists. So the striker partnership has been working well. So that's just a quick catch up, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it. The next episode, I'll probably do the same as I've done, just a quick catch up after quite a lot of games. Let me know in the comments whether you prefer what we were doing before, showing you, you know, 5 games and then the highlights, or whether you prefer this setup of playing a couple of games and then giving a catch up of what's happened, you know, where we are on the table, where we are on other competitions, etc. So I've been Keebs, it's been great to have you, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.